Probably all of us have some memories from childhood Christmas. And it might be at home or it might be elsewhere. Some of my memories are from the church. Where I grew up, we had not a really big parish, but a large church. A beautiful Gothic building, a high altar made of marble, complete with a baldacchino. And one of my memories is that every year they would bring in these large cut trees and place one tree on either side of the high altar. And when I say large, I was a kid, of course, but they were the biggest trees I'd ever seen indoors. Probably, and I've been trying to figure this out, 25 to 30 feet tall. Big, high, and very large around. And it took the workers several days to bring them in and position them. I don't know where they were cut, a forest somewhere. And then those two trees, each had strings of lights on them. And even though there was a nativity set that we all love to look at, I think I was always more enchanted with the trees. There was something about it. But then one year, and I'm figuring I must have been in about the 4th grade, somewhere in there, the word came down. I don't know what authority. The word came down that we could no longer have electric lights on a natural tree in a public building. Fire hazard, apparently. And there was a little panic that went on in town. Well, what's going to happen? Will we even have the trees? How will they be decorated? Will they just be plain trees up there? And so everybody talked about it. I mean, those were slow news days. So we talked about it. And finally, Christmas midnight mass arrived. There were no Christmas Eve masses in those days. The first mass of Christmas was at midnight mass. So midnight arrived, and I recall walking into the church and looking up front. And fortunately, there were the two big trees standing there, one on either side of the altar. And I was happy about that. And I looked at them, and I saw a little glimmer of light. And then another, and quite a few on both trees. And I thought, there's lights up there. I thought we weren't supposed to have light anymore. And then we started to realize what had happened. Somebody had come up with the idea of putting a spotlight on each tree. And then on each tree, they hung countless pieces of glass, maybe pieces of mirror, and that they would kind of swing in the movement of the air, especially when the heat was on. And the mirror would catch the reflection of the bright light and it would shine out. And I know that, of course, we all paid total attention to the Mass and the homily. Of course we did. But I remember looking at those trees throughout the Mass. They kept doing that for year after year. I don't know what they do now. But it was a fascinating thing to me, and that I recalled it because of two things. One was the power of the light on the tree, and the other one was the reflection that came from something that was basically broken. A broken piece of glass, a piece of mirror, whatever it was. That somehow that reflected throughout the entire church. This year, we probably experienced both. The need for the light and that feeling sometimes of the brokenness, the shattered glass of our own lives, our own world. Let's talk a little bit about the light first. The light is a primary symbol of Christmas. In fact, it was powerful last night. We read the first passage from the prophet Isaiah, chapter 9. It was in the middle of the night. It was dark outside, and the passage went, "The people who have walked in darkness have seen a great light. Upon those who dwelt in the land of gloom, a light has shone." Now, of course, when Isaiah wrote this, he was writing to the people who felt the darkness. The Babylonian captivity was at hand. They were being exiled. Their country was falling apart. The temple had been destroyed. They must have felt like, What could be worse? And the prophet gave the symbol of light. And he said, you walked in darkness. Your land is gloom and doom, but there's light. And the light will shine in the darkness. And the passage goes on to say, for a child is born to us, a son is given to us. His name will be Wonder Counselor, Father forever, Prince of Peace. Those same words that we sang in that opening song. Light comes in the darkness. And here's the great paradox. Without darkness, we don't really appreciate the light. So sometimes we discover that our own personal lives seem to be dark. Sometimes we think the whole world's in darkness right now. And it could be the darkness of fear. It could be the darkness of animosity. It could be the darkness of people set up against each other. It could be the darkness of violence. But there is darkness. And I've talked to individuals whose families are struggling. And they're worried about many things. We have darkness. We need the light to shine. And that brings us to the other part. The broken pieces of glass, the mirrors hanging there, because sometimes we are the ones who feel fractured. Sometimes we're the ones who feel shattered. Sometimes we wonder, is there anything whole about our lives? Over the years, I've wondered so many times, why can't we just celebrate Christmas when the whole world would be at peace? Why can't we just declare a moratorium on any animosity and have a month just to get ready for Christmas so people would live together and everybody would be happy? And then it's only at that time that I realized when Jesus was born, it wasn't so good. And that is the message. He comes into a world of chaos to bring us something better. And then we discover, even if we feel we are not whole, and even if we feel fractured, we are the pieces of glass that have to reflect the light of Jesus. But we can't reflect his light unless we're in the light. We have to receive the light and share that light with others. Wouldn't it be great if this group right here today could share light with other people? The light of compassion and love and understanding. Through the years, I've come to find so many layers of meaning about Christmas. And sometimes I look to the Christmas carols that we have sung all our lives, and I find deep meaning. And one of those is the beautiful song, O Little Town of Bethlehem. And please don't worry, I'm not going to sing it. But let me read the words you already know. O little town of Bethlehem, how still we see thee lie. I looked this up. The man who wrote this had just been to the town of Bethlehem, 1868. O little town of Bethlehem, how still we see thee lie. Above thy deep and dreamless sleep, the silent stars go by. It's taking place at night. The town is dark. Yet in thy dark street shineth the everlasting light. And I find an image almost of a dark alley, and we're a little bit fearful to go down that alley, but there's a light there. Yet in thy dark street shineth the everlasting light. The hopes and fears of all the years are met in thee tonight. That is the line. The hopes and the fears. We might have the fears. We might have our worries. We might have our concerns. But we also have to be people of hope. The hopes overcome the fears. The hopes and fears of all the years are met in the birth of the Lord, who is the Lord of light. This is a season of light. This is a season of hope. And if we live in that light and we have that hope, it's also a season of joy.